What's up, Waniacs? Welcome back to the channel. So I had the idea for this video I don't know, a couple of days ago. And after doing a lot of research on the topic to make sure that I didn't leave anything off the table for you guys, it hit me that completing this video in the time that I allotted myself was going to be quite a task. So if you're seeing this now, mission accomplished. Booyah. So this video is going to be a little different. It's going to be maybe a little faster pace than normal. It's also a different style of video that I've not done in, I don't know, a long while or maybe ever. It's more of a vlog style. So do me a favor, watch it through the end, and if you dig it, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do more like this, or maybe I'll just pepper these in with the others that I normally do. And if you're picking up what I'm putting down, do me a favor and smash the like button, as it helps not only with the YouTube algorithm, but it puts my videos out there through the interweb and puts it in front of folks like you that either want to learn more about Baltimore, dig the content, or may even be thinking of moving to Baltimore. And speaking of, if you're thinking of moving to Baltimore, you're at the right spot. Every day, my team and I get calls, texts, emails from folks like you thinking of moving here. So if that's you, or maybe you know someone thinking of moving here, and maybe y'all just have a couple of questions, feel free to reach out, as my team and I are at this 8 days a week. Happy to answer any questions you may have, and I am happy to show you around my hometown. And with that, let's get on with the video. In this video, we're going over the 10 spookiest places in Baltimore City, and we're talking Baltimore City proper. The county is a different video. Maybe that'll be part 2. Now, I'm not talking scary like my neighbor's Halloween decorations, or spooky like levitating bicycle men, or even scary like some of the neighborhoods here in Baltimore City. If you're thinking scary like neighborhoods, then you're watching too much of The Wire. I'm talking scary like haunted.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
And ghouls and ghosts and all things haunty. So get your headless self on a horse and ride with me as we check out 10 of the spookiest spots in Baltimore City. I did a lot of research for this video just to make sure I wasn't leaving anything off the table for you guys. And being born and raised here, I knew a lot of these spooky places already, but there were a couple on here that even surprised me, and I think they'll surprise you. I'll point them out to you as we go through the video, so make sure you stay tuned for those. And while according to all the research online, we won't be starting the video in the most haunted place, we will be starting in the place that has the most haunted spots within it. And that place is Fells Point. So as you can see, nestled between two rows of historic houses here in Fells Point, or Fells with the apostrophe S, Point, as some purists insist, lies the eerie Fell family cemetery. Now, named after the English brothers who settled here in the 1700s, this shadowy resting place is thought to contain only the male members of the Fell family. So where are the women? Well, that's where the spookiness comes into play. Their final resting place remains a mystery. So many late-night wanderers claim to have glimpsed a ghostly figure, likely one of the brothers, drifting along the moonlit cobblestone streets right here after last call. So if you dare to seek it out, this crypt awaits you at 1607 Shakespeare Street. So leaving the Fell family grave, we're going to stroll down here into the heart of Fells Point. So probably the reason why Fells Point is so spooky scary is because, well, its age. See, back in the Great Baltimore Fire of 1904, Fells Point remained intact. So all of its buildings from the 1700s and all of its ghostly residents are still here to this day, haunting the area. So this historic neighborhood was once a bustling hub of shipbuilders, and it later earned a reputation as Baltimore's waterfront red light district, steeped in what they called the 3 Bs: bars, brothels, and boarding houses. So here, the spirits of gentlemen in Revolutionary War attire still wander, supposedly, while Edgar, the resident ghost, enjoys an afterlife at a local bar that I'll be taking you to in just a moment. With eerie tales lurking in nearly every dark, creepy corner, there are simply too many haunts in Fells Point to list. So I've got a couple here, and then we'll head out of Fells Point to the next spooky spot in Baltimore. And I'm sure it comes as no surprise to you that Fells Point has the biggest, bestest Halloween party throwdown every year. So before we leave Fells Point, the Horseshoe Came In On Saloon stands as Maryland's only bar to have weathered the Prohibition era, opening its doors long before and never closing since. Probably one of the most famous bars in the area, locally known as the Horse, it's infamous for more than just drinks. None other than the resident ghost I spoke of earlier, Edgar Allan Poe, was a regular here. Legend has it that the Horse was the last place Poe visited before his mysterious death. After leaving the bar, he was found feverish and delirious on the streets, and just 4 days later he passed away, leaving whispers of alcohol, rabies, and darker causes in his wake. Today the Horse is a hotbed of eerie activity. Staff report the chandelier swinging on its own, cash drawers opening mysteriously, shadowy orbs. Some even say they've spotted Poe's spirit strolling back towards the bar. Patrons notice beer mugs smashing in the same spot, and if Poe's playful, their bar stool sliding right out from under them. So if you dare stop by the Horse You Came In On Saloon for a drink, beware, you may leave with more than just your story, you may leave with a ghost story. Just down the street from the Horse You Came In On Saloon is the Admiral Fell Inn, and this isn't the only hotel on our list today. This inn has a dark history so rich with death that its ghostly tales spill over like a mug of beer. Made up of 8 connected buildings dating back to the late 1700s, the inn was once a gritty mix of brothels, saloons, mob hideouts, and gambling halls, each with its own deadly secret. During the Fells Point's roughest days, countless lives were lost in the shadows of these walls and in the winding, pitch-black alleys outside. Power struggles between mobsters left many casualties, and injured sailors were cared for by the nuns in the main building during wartime, and many of them never left this inn alive. Today, the Admiral Fell Inn stands as one of Baltimore's most haunted places. Sailors are seen drifting through rooms, and doors are knocked on by butlers who vanish without a trace. Some guests report hearing wild, ghostly parties, echoes of long ago past, even when the hotel is empty. In fact, I heard during a hurricane evacuation that the sound of like a full house partying roared through these halls. For those who stay here, beware, you might just meet a spectral guest who's checked in for eternity. Leaving Fells Point and heading uptown to Mount Vernon, Mrs. Robert Garrett-Jacobs was a renowned Gilded Age socialite of Baltimore's Mount Vernon neighborhood, famous for her dazzling parties. So in the late 1800s, she combined several properties to create this Garrett-Jacobs Mansion, now the home of the Engineers Club. Her gatherings were the talk of the town, and an invitation to the mansion was a golden ticket for Baltimore's elite. Just imagine the private dining room gleaming with crystal and fine china, filled with her closest friends and family, raising their glasses in a grand toast. Well, one employee of the Engineers Club got just that as he walked through the dining room one night and had a glimpse of that exact party, folks seated, glasses raised mid-toast, only to watch it vanish before his eyes. This isn't the only strange occurrence within the mansion's walls. Over the years, many have reported ghostly figures, mysterious sounds, and a sense that Mrs. Jacobs' guests never actually left. So my family and I come up here once a year and watch them light the Washington Monument. I'm going to have to pay attention to see if the hair on the back of my neck stands up this year. So down the street from one of Baltimore City's most famous icons, and a short walk from my literal happy place, and around the corner from my favorite Baltimore icon, I present to you the Lord Baltimore Hotel. Built back during the Great Depression, and at the time I think it was one of Baltimore City's tallest buildings, the Lord Baltimore Hotel is steeped in a chilling history tied to the era's desperate souls. Many guests, overwhelmed by despair from the stock market crash, chose this grand hotel as their final destination, and it has since become one of Baltimore's most haunted spots. Over 20 tragic leaps from the rooftop have been recorded, and that's just what's been recorded. And the spirits of these lost souls still wander the hotel halls, glimpsed by guests and staff alike. The hotel's most famous ghostly residents are a young couple who met a tragic end, taking their 7-year-old daughter with them. The parents are often seen dancing eternally in the ballroom while their daughter roams the 19th floor holding her red ball. Her spirit has startled staff members. One was actually so spooked that they left their job for good. Many visitors report an eerie phenomenon: the elevator mysteriously stopping on the 19th floor, the doors opening up, and the hall is empty. So if you stay at the Lord Baltimore Hotel, don't be alarmed if you find yourself with a ghostly roommate. From Midtown to downtown to one of my favorite parts of town, welcome to Fort McHenry, home to our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. Fort McHenry is also the resting place for soldiers who fell to the war and the deadly flu epidemic of 1919. Ghostly soldiers are said to still patrol the grounds, guarding against a threat long gone, perhaps unaware that they've joined the ranks of the departed. Though few American soldiers perished here during the War of 1812, hundreds of British soldiers lost their lives just outside the fort, many executed in the dark stone dungeons within. Today, Fort McHenry is alive with eerie sightings and sounds. Apparitions of soldiers march in formation. Echoes of tortured screams resonate from the dungeon. Some say that they still hear distant drums and smell gunpowder, and one soldier who took his own life in the depths of the fort appears often. Footsteps echo daily, lights flicker on and off without calls, and a ghostly woman gazes from a window. Now, if you're one of those paranormal investigators and you're hoping to document all of these haunts, Fort McHenry is not a simple case. You've got to obtain a special permit. The fort management prefers the fort to be remembered as a place of history and not spooky, ghostly hauntings. Remember back in the beginning of the video when I said there were a couple of these that surprised even me? Well, here they are. The USS Constellation and the USCGC Taney. I didn't even think that these things could be haunted, but it makes perfect sense. The USS Constellation, docked here in Baltimore's Inner Harbor, is really pretty much a ghostly relic from 1855, carrying with it a haunted history that makes it a true spine chiller. This Civil War era vessel, steeped in tales of tragedy, echoes with stories of spirits lost to war, sickness, and accidents. Visitors have reported ghostly crew members gliding across the decks, piercing screams, and eerie conversations coming from empty spaces. The lowest deck of this bad boy, once a prison and sick bay, holds the darkest hauntings, where restless spirits seem to linger, locked in a ghostly loop of the past. The Taney, once a fierce survivor of 119 kamikaze strikes during Pearl Harbor, now sits right here, yet not entirely alone. Another ship steeped in wartime history, it's rumored to host the lingering spirits of its former crew. Visitors claim to hear ghostly footsteps echoing through the corridors, and they catch glimpses of figures in World War II uniforms drifting along the decks. An account from one family who toured the vessel reported spine-tingling evidence. Ghostly voices captured on video that only revealed themselves once they got back to their home. Even more chilling, their young son swore he saw a man in white and a child waving from the shadows. Figures only he could see, the parents did not. So there you go, folks, 2 floating caskets right here in Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Well, we've got 2 places left, and the last one is definitely the spookiest place on the list. So where to now for number 9? I'll give you a hint. October 3rd was a cold, gray day in 1849. That evening, Edgar Allan Poe, the tortured genius of American letters, was discovered delirious and disheveled in a Baltimore gutter. Clothes not his own, his mind lost in a fog of madness. It was the last time the world would glimpse the man who had penned The Raven and The Telltale Heart, a writer whose stories of death and despair now seemed to mirror his own tragic fate. The circumstances surrounding his final hours remain an enigma, shrouded in mystery as dark as his own fiction. "Lord help my poor soul," Poe is said to have muttered in his last moments, an eerie echo of the morbid despair that had long haunted his life and works. With his death just days later, the man who had explored the depths of the human psyche and its darkest impulses passed into legend, leaving behind a body of work that would chill the bones of readers for generations to come. Naturally, the master of sinister stories, Edgar Allan Poe, couldn't resist leaving a ghostly mark after his death. His restless spirit lingers in several eerie locations, from his family home to his beloved tavern, the last place he was seen alive, to his grave at Westminster Church Cemetery, which is where we're heading next. Those who venture near the Poe house report strange knocks, doors and windows creaking open and closing, and mysterious thumps echoing in the night. Now, it goes without saying, the best paranormal hotspots are cemeteries. How could they not be? The number one spot for the 10 most haunted places here in Baltimore is the Westminster Burial Grounds, established in 1787. Residents of the cemetery include Edgar Allan Poe, whose obviously ghost appears to get around Baltimore quite a bit, General Samuel Smith, and Colonel James McHenry. And that's just a few. There are quite a number of Baltimore's elite buried here within these grounds. Obviously, one of the most notable, Edgar Allan Poe. His gravesite is the most visited and has the strangest phenomena surrounding it. So Poe died in 1849, and oddly, in the 1920s, the figure of a man dressed in all black, his face obscured by a scarf, began to appear in the early morning hours at Poe's grave. The mysterious man left roses and a bottle of Poe's signature drink, cognac. This repeated every year on the anniversary of Poe's death until 2009. Poe himself is seen standing before his grave with an expression of sadness on his face. Perhaps he is still longing for something unknown even in his afterlife. There's also this screaming skull that is the most terrifying report of the cemetery's ghostly hauntings. Folklore says a minister who was brutally murdered had a screaming noise coming from his body, frightening those preparing his body for burial. Somehow, his skull was packed with cement before being buried at Westminster. That obviously did not silence the skull, as a high-pitched scream comes from the area near his grave. Lucia Watson Taylor was a young girl who died at 16. She is seen sitting at her grave praying, with noted long hair and a flowing white gown. These are just a few ghost stories coming from this place, and I'm told that if you're thinking about causing some havoc within these burial grounds, think again, because there's a 19th century groundskeeper that chases off perpetrators with his shovel and shouts obscenities at you. And if you want to get in on the fun, stop by Westminster Hall and Burial Ground on Halloween, where tradition calls for a reading of Poe's short story, The Telltale Heart. The burying ground, established in 1792 and church completed in 1852, are on the University of Maryland School of Law campus in downtown Baltimore. The cemetery's catacombs are even open to visitors then. And don't forget to bring a flask of cognac and some roses. So there you have it, saving the best for last, the 10 spookiest spots here in Baltimore City. This was a blast. I cannot wait to make you part 2, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, I will see you on the next one.